Piaget's Conservation of Numbers by D. Stevens. Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist who studied child development. He discovered that the minds of children evolve through a series of 4 stages. The 4 stages of cognitive development created by Piaget are sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, formal operational. Let's take a quick look at each. Piaget's first stage of cognitive development is sensory motor. This stage spans from birth to age 2. As the name suggests, this is a stage ruled by the senses. As they explore the world, they think with their senses versus symbols or words. This is a stage of rapid growth and learning. Piaget's second stage of cognitive development is preoperational. This stage spans from age 2 to 7. During this stage, children begin to think symbolically and use words. Those words begin to represent objects and thoughts. Though words become a part of this stage, the child still does not understand concrete logic. Piaget's third stage of cognitive development is concrete operational. This stage spans from age 7 to 12. It marks the beginning of logic and thought. We also see children classifying objects based on similarities and differences. Children begin to understand concepts of time and number. As the name implies, there's a lot of concrete thought happening here. This stage also marks the beginning of the ability to conserve. We'll talk about that in a bit. Piaget's fourth stage of cognitive development is formal operational. This stage spans from age 12 and beyond. Here, thoughts become more organized and children become masters of logic. Though their thoughts become more flexible, which allow mental experimentation and the creation of abstract or less concrete ideas. All right, back to Piaget's theory of conservation. Piaget noticed that during the concrete operational stage, children begin to realize properties of objects remain the same despite changes in the form or location of the object. Looking at the chart, we can see that there are several different types of conservation. The process is the same for volume, number, matter, or length. There's an initial presentation of an object followed by a transformation of the object without removing any of their original objects. Piaget noticed that children in the pre-operational and sensory motor stages perceived the transformation in a way that actually changed the amount or the object. He then noticed that children in the concrete operational stage and beyond began to realize that the change did not affect the composition or the object. Today, we are going to explore the conservation of numbers. When a child is developmentally capable to conserve numbers, we see that they will recognize the number of items does not change when organized differently. There are different methods of organization, like making space between the objects, changing the shape or arrangement of the objects, or covering some of them without removing any of them. The methods for this exploration include 6 subjects, 5 female and 1 male. They range from age 3 to 12. By age, 3 fall into pre-operational, 2 fall into concrete operational, and 1 falls into formal operational. The procedure for each subject includes showing 2 rows of candy. I say, 1 is mine and 1 is theirs. I line them up evenly and ask, do I have more candy? Do you have more candy? Or are they the same? Once they answer, I then spread their row of candy out without removing any pieces and ask again. Let's look at the first subject.
These are your candies. These are my candies. Do you have more candy? Or do I have more candy? Can you put it here? Are there more here? Or are there more here? Point to one. Here, will you point to one? Which one has more? Which one has more? Mm-hmm. Okay. What about this? Point, which one has more, you or me? Here, put it here. Are there more here? Or are there more here? Yes. Okay, good job. Wait, one more. Are you ready? One more. Put it here. Okay. Are there more here? Or are there more here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yay.
Subject A is 3 years old. We see that it takes quite a bit of prompting to get her to answer the questions. During the first round, we see her taking some of the candy without giving an answer. Once she finally gives us an answer, she takes a second to consider and points to one of the candies. This shows that she has not really developed the ability to understand number. During the second round, something similar happens, but she takes less time to make her decision. It seemed as though she was simply trying to decide which candy to take instead of which row had more. I had to prompt her again to replace the candy. During the third round, she was quick to decide and cheered for herself. Seeing her responses, she definitely falls into that pre-operational stage. She has some
Okay.
words, but doesn't fully
These
grasp the meaning of the
are
activity. She
your
also shows that
candies.
she doesn't quite have the concept of number sense, which doesn't develop until later. Let's take a look at subject
These
B. This is a female, age
are my
5.
candies. Do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
They're the same.
Okay. What about now? Do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
I am one.
Why do you have more?
Because you spread them out.
Okay. All right, Taylor. Do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
You have more.
I do. Why?
Because yours are spread out and mine are not.
Okay.
Subject B is 5 years old. During the first round, when both rows are aligned, she recognizes them as having the same amount. During the second round, however, she perceives her row as having more because I spread them out. They look like more to her because they're spread out. Similarly, during the third round, I put her row into a pile and she perceived that I had more because mine were spread out. This shows us that she does not yet have a concept of number sense. Her development says that the more spread out the candies are, the more there actually are. The change in location actually changed the objects. This puts her directly into that pre-operational stage, using words and symbols to describe the world while not quite having a solid understanding of time or numbers. She's developmentally
These are your
unable
candies.
to conserve the amount of candies when the configuration has changed. Let's take a look at subject C. This is a
These
female,
are
age
my
6.
Candies. Do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
The same.
Okay. Now, do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
You have more.
Okay, why do I have more?
Because there's 3 here and you took away some.
Okay. Now, do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
The same.
Subject C is 6 years old. She watched intently while I laid each candy out. The first round, she answered quickly that they were the same. During the second round, she confidently answered she only had 3 left because I took away some. This shows a budding number sense as she counted the candies. However, she felt confident that because the candies were no longer on the paper, they were no longer included in her row. We see this similarly later in subject D, though he's 8. We also see something similar happen with subject E, though she asks clarifying questions because she understands that those details matter. In round 3, subject C goes back to recognizing that there are the same amount. She's about
Okay.
to turn 7, which is an important detail to note
These
as we see a
will be
budding
your
sense of
candies.
conservation. Let's take a look at subject D, male, 8 years old.
These will be my candies. I want you to tell me if you have more candy, if I have more candy, or we have about the same amount.
The same amount.
Okay. Okay, now, do you have more candy, or do I have?
more candy?
I have more candy?
Mhm.
Why?
Because there's 3.
Okay, okay. What about this? Do I have more candy, or do you have more candy, or are they the same?
Same.
Okay, why are they the same?
Because there's 5 stacked up over here.
Okay, okay.
Subject D is 8 years old and falls into Piaget's concrete operational stage, which is the stage Piaget believed conservation begins. During the first round, subject D recognizes that both rows contain the same amount. During the second round, subject D sees a change in the amount of items. He sees his row as having less and my row as having more. When asked to elaborate, he shows that he's perceiving the border of the paper as being out of the row. He explains that he only has 3 candies still in his row because the other 2 are no longer on the paper, which this definitely shows us that he absolutely has a number sense. Because there weren't any specific directions included about the edges of the paper. During the
These
third
are
round,
your
his candies are moved to the
candies.
center and he perceives them as the same amount. While
These
he's
are
at the
your
beginning of this stage, we see that he understands some levels of conservation while
Do you have more?
he's developing in
Do
other
I have
levels of
more, or are
understanding.
they the same?
Let's take a look at subject E, female, 9 years old.
They're the same.
Okay. Brooke. Now, do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
Depends. Are these included?
Yes.
Well, then they're the same.
Okay. What about now? Do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
They're the same.
Okay.
Subject E is 9 years old. During the first round, when I asked her if they were different or the same, she took time to count each row, which is different from the other children. And she eventually answered that they were the same. This is important to note as this is a key development in the concrete operational stage from the pre-operational stage. This shows more of a number sense and that she was trying to categorize the groups based on similarities and differences. During round 2, she asked clarifying questions, saying that it depends. If the ones off the paper are included, then they're the same. This is an important distinction separating subject C's understanding that the ones off the page are absolutely no longer in her row. We see the subject's developmental stage and age align with her understanding and clarification of boundaries.
These are your
This shows us that
candies.
her number sense depends upon certain parameters or rules,
These
often
are
found in
my
more complex
candies.
mathematical scenarios. Let's take a look at the last subject, a female, 12 years
Do you
old.
have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
They're the same.
Okay, do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
They're the same.
And do you have more? Do I have more, or are they the same?
They're the same.
Subject F is
These are
12 years
your
old
candies.
and falls right at the cusp of the concrete operational and formal operational stage.
These are my
She answers
candies.
quickly and confidently. We see that she has a solid number sense of an understanding, giving those quick and confident answers during each round. This is indicative of a full development of conservation of numbers. She is unswayed and hardly interested in the fact that the groups changed, as she saw that I did not add to or take away from any candies, but merely changed their location. This shows us that she has a pretty developed sense of conservation and that she is fully in the formal operational stage. So implications for the classroom. Let's put it all together. And what does it mean? Understanding the development of conservation of numbers in students can be important as we as teachers plan lessons. Number 2, as students understand conservation, as their understanding increases, their ability to perform more complex tasks increases. 3, I'd like for us to consider accommodations and differentiation for students who are not developmentally ready for those lessons. And 4, we can give students tasks to help strengthen their understanding of conservation. My insights about this project have been transformational. I'd previously understood and seen these projects before in the past, but it was really transformational for me to see it before my eyes. I chose my subjects spanning different ages so I could capture those different levels of development. I wasn't prepared actually for it to look and sound and be so obvious. Piaget's stages are helpful for me as a teacher so that I can ensure my lessons are developmentally appropriate. It's also something to take note of as a teacher if I'm observing missing skills in a student. I might more readily ask myself, are they missing a skill or have they just not developed that understanding yet? Thank you so much.